We will be beginning with the fireside chat next, and I would request Mr. Prashant to please come back on stage for moderating the chat. Also, please allow me to briefly introduce the other panelists who will be joining Mr. Prashant for the chat. Firstly, we have Mr. Pallab Banerjee, Joint Managing Director at Pearl Global Industries Limited, and experienced in apparel sourcing, manufacturing, strategies, and operations. He has been associated with the apparel industry for over 3 decades prior to joining Pearl. Mr. Banerjee was Vice President of Global Sourcing and Managing Director of Gap India Operation. A graduate from Delhi University and a diploma holder in apparel marketing and merchandising from NIFT, he also did financial management from ICAHT. With world-class experience in supply chain strategic solutions, he is able to devise long-term strategies with the unique ability to identify trends that the brands pick up and develop. I would also like to invite Mr. Sivaramakrishnan Ganapathi. Mr. Siva, as Vice Chairman and Managing Director, leads Gokaldas Exports Limited, sets its strategic direction and nurtures its leadership team to excel. He is passionate about growth and creating high business impact with a focus on people empowerment and sustainability. Mr. Siva has over 3 decades of global experience leading high growth businesses and in diverse industries across countries in Asia, North America, and Europe. With his passion and strong entrepreneurial mindset, Mr. Siva has turned around Gokaldas Exports over the last 5 years, making it a leading apparel manufacturer. Earlier, Mr. Siva has worked with the Aditya Birla Group for over 2 decades and has been involved in leadership positions in diverse businesses. Mr. Siva holds a master's degree in management from IIM Bangalore and a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from NIT. I would also like to invite Mr. Gaurav Bhargava, President LPH Apparel Inc., USA. Mr. Gaurav Bhargava is a seasoned professional with an impressive track record spanning over 34 years in the manufacturing and supply chain sector. With a wealth of experience garnered from across the globe, Mr. Gaurav brings a deep understanding of industry dynamics and an unwavering commitment to excellence to his work. His expertise is a valuable asset in optimizing operations and driving growth in the ever-evolving landscape of manufacturing and supply chain management. I now request Mr. Prashant to take over the moderation of the fireside chat.
Thank you, and welcome to all the honored and esteemed panelists in this. And I can brief you, I have been part of OGTC members, the owners all sitting over here. They are very engrossed, and there are, as I saw in the morning, when we started, there was 700 plus online attendance which was there from people across from factories where they are eager to listen to what you people have to say about industry and what's the future of this industry. And when we talk about the whole fireside chat, prerequisite to profitability of apparel business, that's what we are talking about in this. And how it is different, why I started calling it fireside chat, because normally we have a panel discussion and we start everybody asking everybody's opinion. Here, we would like to hear your experience, your journey, to really understand that what you have done, how you have shaped the businesses that you are running, and what are your learnings. What are the learnings for the audience here to see that they can emulate some part of what you have done and have the trajectory growth for their company as well as India. And definitely some of the companies who are listed, they are growing, they are profitable, and they are creating value. And consumer is seeing the value in your business. That's why we are talking about multiples, which we were not talking earlier in this business. Because I think one of the important part is you have to do, action will give results. But at the same time, you have to speak to public so that they understand what is being done, what's the vision and how it's happening. So I think with this fireside chat, I would urge all three of you to really share the insights, which will be a good learning for the all audience. And with this, I think my first question, while I will go deep as we move on, my first question will be, how do you see future of this apparel industry, and where does India stand? Do you see that this is a business where people should invest? As I talked in my presentation, there are globally $1 billion plus companies who are still growing much faster. So can India create those kind of businesses? What's the future about it? And I would like to start with Siva, with you. And why I'm starting, you are the person who has come from outside the industry and being there in 5 years in this industry for apparel. And Aditya Birla Group almost spent 2 decades in various sectors, from telecom to all different businesses. So you are here is the person who came to this industry, saw from a different angle, and see that no, there is no backlog or no. He never thought about that. The way when we want to put up a business here in India, we talk to a lot of colleagues. We say whether it is possible, how much it can be grown, what are the issues, can it happen or not. So he never had any kind of baggage, and he came straight. Definitely he must have faced a lot of challenges, but he overcame all. From 900 crores, from where Gokaldas export is, today is a 3,000 crore plus with a valuation of 4,500 crore plus. So can you talk about what you have done and what you see the future?
Okay, thank you, Prashant. There's a lot of questions, right? I think the first question you asked was, is there a future for this industry? Obviously, we're not sitting here if there isn't a future for this industry. So we all are convinced there is a future for this industry. Industry itself is very large. If global apparel trade is 500 billion, we are nobody. Even $1 billion company is too small in the scheme of things. That there is enough and more opportunity for growth for everyone. There are several companies in India who have deep experience, lot of years and years of dealing with customers, years and years of dealing with manufacturing apparel. That the ingredients are all there, right? It is all about what you imagine. That's how I look at business. If you imagine yourself to be big, large, or whatever you want to do, I think then you will find a way to get there. That's how the human mind works, and that's how we all will corral everybody to then get that. So when I looked at Gokaldas at that point in time, it was a fairly broken company. There were a lot of internal challenges as well, and it was not profitable. So it was a great opportunity. The only way it can go is go up and improve. I mean, it was that broken at that point in time. So that was, if you look at it from that perspective, then you can start looking at ways to fix things and ways to improve things. And whatever area you touch, we could rectify, we could figure out. But the first and foremost thing, from my perspective, was the manufacturing piece. I think at the end of the day, this is a B2B business. We are selling goods which are bought by large brands. We are not really making an iPhone or something like that, where we're looking at the product, we are designing the product, or we are, marketing the product, nothing. We are like a Foxconn, manufacturing it for Apple, right? So what we have to be good at is manufacturing. We have to be consistent, we have to be able to make it in high quality, and, reliably supply to the customers. So if you look at it from that perspective, it's a fairly simple business. You know what you have to do. You know what you have to do consistently, and you have your resources. You have to just make it work time and again, right? So if you simplify how you look at it, I think then you know what areas to touch upon. But from my perspective, it is the factory which makes money. And if a factory cannot make, say, 16 to 20% EBITDA, then there's something wrong. We have to now start pushing that, which again comes down to how do you get your throughputs up, efficiencies up. How do you align your own supply chain? How do you get your lines to, line after line, to be far more efficient in operations? How do you reduce your defect rates? How do you improve your consumption? How do you get more industrial engineering into the factory? I think that is where bulk of the value addition is. Of course, there are other things as well, right, all around it. How do you sell and all that. But if you get this right, why wouldn't brands come to buy from you? What are you selling really? You're selling capacity, right? At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. So your ability to understand the manufacturing process, your ability to understand that technology, your ability to understand people, because this is again a labor-oriented business, and get the best out of all of these different components is what will drive success from my standpoint. And as I said, opportunity is infinite. It's a very large business out there, and all of us are very small players. So if you get this right, you can simply keep on replicating if you have the will and the wherewithal to replicate, right? So you may probably want to also create structures which will allow you to scale. That's it. I mean, it's a simple business. So
that's again, I am picking on from that, and I want you to elaborate, because you are saying it's a simple business. What we have heard and all of us know, there are a lot of complications in this business. Today, fabric is not coming on time, and then there are labor absenteeism happening every day. The embellishments are not coming on time. Buyers are not giving approvals in time, and you are saying it's a simplistic business. So how does these two things correlate? Why do you think it's not a complicated business?
So every business has complexity, right? So first we all like to believe that our business is most complex. I mean, maybe because I came from another industry, I find that this is, I'm kind of overlooking some of these challenges. These are day-to-day challenges. This will be there in all businesses. I don't see them as significant headwinds or challenges to the business. I mean, if fabric doesn't come on time, you have to work with the fabric supplier. You can put a quality control guy at the fabric supplier. Just like the brands work with us, we have to work with our suppliers and make sure that the fabric which is shipped from the supplier itself is QC controlled there, so that you don't have rejection after you start inspecting in your warehouse. So there are ways to handle this. Brands, if you're talking of getting approvals from the brands, you have to work with them and work with their people to make it happen. Will there be some small hiccups here, there, challenging? Of course it will be there. But is that what is holding us up? I don't think so. All those are, in my opinion, minor irritants, not something that will hold us back. I mean, just to give you an example, I was running a telecom business just before this. We had what we call BTS sites all over India. We had 200,000 sites or something, all in rural areas. You can imagine, in India, rural sites, power is not there. Diesel generators are there. Diesel can be pilfered, generators can be taken away. All of those have to be managed across the rural landscape, and yet you have 99.9999% uptime of your telecom networks. It's not easy. You're exposed to weather. That's far more complicated than what we're talking here. I've run an IT business. There also, it's real time, and there are a lot of complexities there. And if something goes wrong, it just goes wrong pretty quickly, pretty fast, and to a large scale as well. So these are all operational issues. I don't think we should just get bogged down by operational issues. Then I don't think we can think big. We need to have people who can handle it and structures which can support it. I mean, we can talk more about it, but I feel that that's not the issue.
So I agree. That's how you have put it simply, and I think you have explained it beautifully also. But suppose just to take a bit more into it, because what happens is this is industry where a lot of places next generation is also not coming into business because they think it's complicated. I can have a much better life somewhere else. Or there are not, if suppose India, a lot of newcomers are coming, But those newcomers are not there in this business in India because they see whenever they talk to this industry, it's complicated. You have better opportunities in India. So when we say these are nitty-gritties of the business, and you rightly pointed out, you put a structure, you put people there, you talk to fabric players. So are fabric player and manufacturers not interacting enough to be able to streamline the whole supply chain? Are like, I am taking example of fabric or anything else. So is it that a complication which you have put together and is able to slowly streamline? That's also I want to understand from you, because you must have faced these same challenges as you came. So how you were able to over a period of time streamline these?
See, it's a question of the level of integration with our supply chain. Just like the brands are fairly integrated with us and micromanage our business, we also need to micromanage our supply chain. And if we are able to do that and reliably handle that part, I think more or less we can drive that level of consistency and minimize some of those challenges. As far as you repeatedly harp on complexity, and I'm repeatedly saying I don't see it. A lot of people came to me and keep coming to me saying that there was this problem and I solved it. I mean, would you like let's say your driver is driving a car and would you say that this cycle came, this rickshaw came, and he keeps kind of telling you things that how he accomplished his task of going from point A to point B. I would not be interested in listening to it. Likewise, I'm not interested in listening to my people saying what all impediments they faced and what all they overcame. Right? I mean, those are all part and parcel of our job. So we all face obstacles. We all overcome them. I think I would like to step back and again start thinking big. The problem is it's not about those obstacles. We really need to have a focus on that bigger goal. Bhagavad Gita says that it's the goal which is important. The obstacles you should not really be focusing on that. The problem is when you have clear path to lesser goals, then you start getting worried about these obstacles and then going after smaller goals. So don't go for that. Overcome these obstacles, but go for the bigger goal.
Thanks, Eva, and so beautifully put. I think it deserves a round of applause. Because why I asked you this question again and again, because this has been a pertinent question which we are facing, everybody is facing, and I think the way you explained the telecom part of business and definitely it opened our eyes. So our business started looking less complicated when you look towards telecom from that perspective. And we used to think telecom is like easy, you have to put some towers and
on telecom, I will just tell you one more thing. In bulk of India's market is prepaid. If it is prepaid, you need retailers selling telecom recharges. If you look at the number of retailers selling recharges, they number into millions. Now, how do you ensure that each of those trade channels are serviced with recharges by some guy who will go, the distributor's salesperson? How do you monitor that he does his job so that the recharges are available? Millions of stores on a daily basis. The guy who is sitting 150 kilometers from, say, Silchar, is he doing his job today? How do you ensure that? It is far more complicated. I'm telling you, that guy is working from his home and then doing some 8 villages and going and dropping recharges. Is he doing it or he is not doing it? He is taking a day off. You have to ensure it pan India. It's not easy. I'm telling you, that's far more complicated than this.
Thank you. And you are right. Again, I think we started with in morning itself. We talk about, as I think I have noted it. It's like if you set your vision right, I think the whole team works toward it. Everything falls in line. If you think you are the only person working for the vision, it will never go to happen. Thanks, Yuva, and I'll come back. I have more questions, but let me go to Pallab now. And Pallab, again, with your vast experience as a buyer, and now you have a role. You are a CEO of a big company in manufacturing and global CEO for that. From that perspective, how do you see a buyer-supplier relationship. How do you see that India can really build those kind of relationship with the buyers, what they need, so that we can have that vision to expand business the way we all discuss? Over to you. While this is one, we'll move on to other questions, but just coming from that, because now you are supplying, earlier you were from the buyer side, so you have that real mix from that perspective.
I think in India we do have very strong relationships with the buyers. I think that's something as Indians we do. We can mix with people. We have a diverse culture in our country itself, so we can communicate quite well. But when we talk of the industry level, like which Shiva just started before the conversation, so that goal is there or not? So if you talk about India versus other countries, that's one of the questions that you have. In India, I had two problems when I was on the buying side. The OT percentage that we talk about, on time, in full quantity. That means what deliveries we're giving to the customer. So that India's score was in the 80s, whereas some of the other countries which are better than us, let's say, Vietnam, China, and now Bangladesh, they were in the late 90s. So that's the kind of variation was always existing. So, as Shiva just mentioned, every component of that business, if we can put a model which can solve that. So if it's a fabric problem, how do we solve that? If it's a communication approval problem, how do we solve that? So that, and you have a longer, better and bigger vision to work towards. If that happens, so today we have companies in India who have brought this number from the 80s to high 90s, and they're doing successful business. Now that model has to be replicated at a very mass scale in India. That's not yet happened, I guess, and that's I think the direction that we're marching upon at this point of time. A few companies maybe the who has gone really big, they have understood that formula and applied it. And otherwise, as we were just saying, if you're trying to solve all the problems yourself, the first entrepreneur kind of setup that you have, so then it's quite a lot. And then most of the people come and always want to tell you, okay, I have solved this problem for you. I solved this problem for you. So that, how do you break through from that and create an industry kind of thought process among the entire team? That, I think, is the change that we are undergoing in India at this point of time, from my viewpoint.
So,
No,
I completely agree. And when you have manufacturing facilities like you have as Pearl in Vietnam, in Indonesia, in Bangladesh, in India, in Guatemala, so how do you see working in these countries different from what we do? Do you see a difference and which will, some understanding which will help us really work towards achieving kind of late 90s kind of OTIF? Because I also talk to a lot of buyers, OTIF is very important. One of the most important part, commitment, deliver. They can be your best friends. They can really do all your dinners and holidaying together and everything. But when it comes to business, the bigger companies have to have their performance. So there are certain niche customers who are still there could be one person who is taking a decision. But when you talk about bigger scale, then the bigger organizations in the West or any other country, even in East also, Japan to US, so you'll find that there are process and systems where the decisions are being taken. So when you want to scale it up, when you want to service these bigger clients, then this process and things like deliveries of OTF and other things becomes the most important part, much more than simple. How other Vietnam is able to do better than India?
Vietnam,
why it happens so?
Vietnam as a country is always 99 plus.
Why?
I think there I talk about the ecosystem that has existed in these countries. Even Bangladesh has moved in the last 10 to 15 years. If you see, Bangladesh has also reached now high 90s. There would be about 96 to 97% is Bangladesh. To the bigger, better customers, I'm seeing a record of 98, 99 as well, as good as Vietnam. China always had that position, that they were always at 99 plus. So that's something over a period of time, how the industry has matured, how the at large scale, so many factories, the whole people the whole industry, I would say the culture has developed like that. So I'm not saying that India is not doing it, India is also moving in that direction, but yeah, we have some more catch up to do.
Thanks. I think I'll keep coming back because I'm getting very good insight in today's discussion. Let me go to Gaurav, and Gaurav has a good understanding of how the business works in US, and he has his company, he has started his website also. So e-commerce is something which I was talking yesterday to you that is, you feel that it's the future. So can you just throw that how businesses or young generation can be associated with that and take advantage of it? What's your take?
So thanks, first of all, thanks for bringing me in the panel. I think it's very important to see the dynamics of changing business, currently what's there in US especially. We've seen big box retailers, we've seen mid-sized retailers, we've seen the discounters. So the race is to the bottom. I agree with Shiva and Pallab. There's some big brands who would support and they will always be there. And people definitely want that big brand name. But I come from a licensing world where the cost of the license is so high. As we said, approvals. Challenge. I've had licenses from all over the world. We don't get license approval for about a month. And how do you do a delivery? The people in Europe take a vacation and they're gone. So it's a little challenge. I know it's operational, but a real challenge that it's a seasonal product. We have to deliver. And the challenge comes to the factory. We're not manufacturers ourselves. We have to communicate to the factory, and the factory has to deliver. Coming back on e-commerce, I think everybody from here is from Oklahoma. The cost of doing business is very high. Same thing, the cost of doing business in US is very, very high then. So how do you work to bring the demands? You cannot have an infrastructure where you can have a fully vertical factory. The development of the fabrics, the finishing of the fabric is very, very important, which definitely we lack. We don't have many finishing plants. The one Nike needs, the one Under Armour needs, the one the Puma needs, Adidas needs. There are very, very few who can do it. And the line is pretty long to get the work done in those factories. Now, how do you come up? I don't know if you've all heard of name of Temu or Shein, AliExpress, Wayfair. These are the companies who've brought China on the map, like in business all over the world. Demand manufacturing is the way, probably technology is the one that you'll have to adopt. Demand manufacturing is the way to go going forward, where you have to believe in your talent. The younger generation, your kids probably have gone to school overseas, they're coming back, they get frustrated, I'm not able to do the trend that I want to see. The educational institute here are not teaching some parts of the game that, real majority of the business is based on the lifestyle of a person. So whether you're selling to Ross, whether you're selling to Walmart, whether you're selling to Costco or any brand, everybody has a certain lifestyle. So designing should be done on lifestyle. I've had challenges where I see people don't have that capability to understand that punk, the gothic, So there's very few people who understand that not live the lifestyle, so they cannot produce it. So more focus should be on trend, like the lifestyle of a person and how you can everybody wants to take from here their own brand to US. Unless you become a brand, your profitability is not going to increase. And profitability is something that will give you way to work forward, whether you have extra QCs, whether you have equipment. There's government giving subsidies, I believe, that you can import certain machines, go after it, get modernized, see what Shein has done, see what Temu has done. Temu alone, $61 billion last year. That's huge. How do Chinese company partner up with a US company on a friendly basis that you can deliver LDP shipments? He just asked me a question. We're starting that program for 3PL warehouses where all the e-com brands in US can 3PL here through us. We ship direct within 3 to 7 days. to home, that's duty free. $800, anything shipment under $800 is duty free. So why can't we take advantage of that? Ship direct to the consumer. We've got talent. It's just making the talent, finishing it up, bringing the best out of them, and we do direct business. There's every sector which India can take it up forward. You know, we're talking about $500 billion worth of business, but if Shein and Temu has taken so much of it, the retailers are finding hard to survive. Gen Z doesn't want to shop in the store anymore. He's on the phone, and it's all impulse buying. They'll buy, oh, I found something. They see a trend on TikTok, they see a trend on Instagram, instantly they're buying. Whether it's cosmetic, whether it's apparel. Apparel is the highest selling thing in US. So in terms of commodity wise, and people are just shopping. We don't get time. Seriously, how many of us, the generation Gen Z wants to go out there and do other things rather than just be in the mall. It's becoming a little bit, so most of the sales from other brands are coming. So the platform that we are creating, we're inviting all the brands in US. You have all store buys, you have e-com orders. E-com orders can stay in our 3PL. We have technology that we can do up every day, daily inventory. We can be their eyes here, and that's how we can support India. E-com is a big. Every little guy, same thing here, little student from Fashion Institute. I graduated from FIDM, so Los Angeles. There, everybody wants to, first is, I want to create a brand. And if they have a partner here who can create a brand, that little market is huge. That huge. And trends, how do you deliver a fast trend? How do you deliver, speed to market? That speed to market is through e-commerce. The day you see the trend and something trending, produce it right away, post it on the sites. We've got a marketplace, post it, or you create your own, but creating a lot of it, it's hard for people to understand. There's a one consolidated site that we're building for designers, for brands, that you can get on board, and you can make a lot more profits compared to what the retailers are making. So saving on duty, the cost of doing business in US, it's very high, whether it's 3PL, whether it's getting the goods to the warehouse, custom clearance, this, that. When you count up, the brands are only making 8-10%, and from where we start to end, it's 80%, 80 points. So how can you cover up 50 also and still be cheaper? That's what Shein and Temu did, and AliExpress did. If US consumer wants to go to the bottom price, we are here, manufacturers going direct to US. So I think that's the future, unless we want to go the Bangladesh or Vietnam style, where we can be so big and cater to this. But we definitely need to have the fabric processing and things in place to make those brands coming over here.
Thanks, Gaurav, and I can tell you, as you said, India is big, and there's a place for people to create an e-commerce brand. There's a place for people to really be a supplier to and create your own brand and supply it to US, and you can have manufacturing bases the way Bangladesh has, Vietnam has, and so all kinds of companies will exist in India. They will grow, but Gaurav just talked about new opportunities in e-commerce where you can build your businesses and grow your businesses in US. And I will come back, Gaurav, later, but to Siva, to you. While we talked since morning about how companies have to build vision, what they think. So what's your vision? Where you want to take this company to, so that others can also get inspired or whatever. It's about, can we have your story? That how do you want to create value in this company? And Pallab, I'll come to you also. You are also handling a big business there. Yeah, please.
Okay. So, we have grown. The first phase of Gokaldas is more or less over. That is where the shift from a struggling company to a profitable, growing company, growing at the rate of about 20% YOY. That part is done, and I think the platform exists. It can grow. Now what next? There are many ways one can look at. I feel the opportunity to grow continues, and we have to grow more in low-cost regions so that they become sustainable over the longer period of time. So many of our factories, for instance, are in and around Bangalore, where the cost structures are incredibly high, and will continue to be increasing going forward. So the competitiveness of some of those factories in the longer run may be a challenge, even though they are fairly versatile, we have very good workforce, and they are very good factories from a productivity standpoint. So we'll have to look at locations which are low cost and locations which are low cost globally for sustained growth, which means we set up one unit in Madhya Pradesh in Bhopal, where I find the availability of people are good and cost structures are low because of also some government incentives that are there. Some people have gone to Jharkhand, some people have gone to Orissa. All of those are interesting locations in India where the cost structures are fairly good. Availability of people are there, and we can probably create a Bangladesh in these places. After all, Bangladesh is like a state of India as well, right, in terms of size. So we could do that, and we can, get a strong new lease of life in India by tapping into low-cost manufacturing. The second one is also look for duty arbitrage. That is, countries where import duties are zero. And our recent move from an acquisition standpoint was a step in that direction, where we got an access into a duty-free location. So that will continue. And if you have a system and process to manage factories regardless of where they are, then I think you can manage no matter where they are. Like Pallab is running an operations with, business with operations in Indonesia, in Vietnam, now Guatemala. So you could run it. That's not, I don't see that as a challenge or a barrier, right? So look for locations which are low cost in the long run, and has got that duty arbitrage which are sustainable. The other one which we have not yet taken a final call on, or we're still debating, is what about backward integration, fabric, etc. So there are some advantages to doing that. There is some critical mass you require before you start doing that. But that's another option, another thing to look at if you really want a sustained growth. The other aspects would be, having a more closer presence to the customer, so that you can, react faster. We are, after all, just, providers of goods to the customers. I think the customers want much more than that. They will want us to, we can even embed ourselves with the retailers. I'm kind of painting a possible future, right? And some vendors may be doing that already, do some analytical work for the retailer, trying to see, which product categories or which, styles are more in demand. How can I, for certain product types, help you come up with a faster turnaround or a lower lead time, and then work out a solution from our system itself to do that. So go a little beyond just take an order and deliver, right? So there are ways to migrate or up that value chain. If you look at the Indian IT industry, they they started in India after the garment industry, right? I mean, today they are $150+ billion industry, and they have migrated quite a bit in solution driving. I mean, they started as a body shop, as in it's a bad word. I don't like that. But they were just sending people, placing them in the customer sites, and charging per hour. Then later on they started doing it out of India, again charging per hour on a lower rate. Now they're taking whole projects, saying I'll do the entire thing for you. Like, I'll do your insurance claims processing for you. I'm not going to give you software. I'll do the claims processing for you. So if you start thinking like that, then there are many more things we can do, right? I mean, it depends on what you, again, as I said, what you imagine. But those are the things we need to explore. Now, not all of that can be done, in a short while. It takes years, maybe decades to do that. But that's the way one could go, right? The first step along that way would be to have a footprint in more low-cost locations.
You are saying you have identified building blocks and with year on year 20% may go to 25, 30 depending on, but your building blocks are identified and you will keep working on the building blocks.
Which is very important, correct?
But this is another question, like India, you will not have many companies who have expanded in the way you are talking about, looking for FTAs, FTA where you get duty advantage, looking for countries to set up factories there, or so how it can be possible when you are expanding, there are management challenges which do happen. So how do you plan to overcome those?
So there are management challenges and financial challenges as well. So we are fortunate that we are listed, and that helps because that gives you a currency to raise funds from the market and leverage that. Over the last 4-5 years, we became a debt-free company. So even for working capital, we are not borrowing, which in my mind, if I wear my finance hat, I would say that's a really bad idea, because debt cost is the cheapest compared to equity. But having said that, we've been running like that. So we had the structure which permitted us to take bigger bets financially, right? As far as the management goes, in this particular case, when we acquired, we really evaluated the management team of the target as well and found that they had a good management. So with minimal intervention from our side, we felt that we can manage that asset. So it all depends on specific situations, because no two acquisitions are alike. But having said that, we have to create the management structure. So we've done a fair amount of work on tracking a factory. So digitalization of the factory processes, taking MIS out of factories without much involvement of the factory operational people, so that we can control a factory centrally. Today on this, I have all data, hourly basis for all factories, line wise, etc., etc. Whatever data you want in terms of production, process, even cutting room, sample room, everything. So there's a lot of data. If you have that kind of a data-rich environment, then you don't mind. You can then scale it up. You can add another 2 factories and plug it into the same system, so that you are able to control it in a similar fashion, right? And this also is a growing, it's a journey. You keep improving it in such a way that you have more and more control over the factory operation, so that you can then easily manage that scale.
Thank you. So you are saying the team has to be put at right places, and then digitalization becomes very important, so that data analytics helps you have a better control.
I think that is a base. If that is a must-have. If you have that, then you can do all of those other.
Right. No, while I am going through these questions, because very interesting, and I think you people must be thinking, some questions must be coming to your mind also, which I am not able to ask here. So I'll come back to you. You keep your questions ready, so you can ask some of these questions from my panelists here. So Pallab, to you. What's your vision, and where do you think you can take this company to, seeing the opportunities which are there? What's your vision?
In another platform, like you put both of us together and you make us promise that India needs more billion-dollar companies. So I think both me and Shiva had said yes to that. So in fact, as I said, we have to create a business model which is sustainable and which is scalable. I think Shiva is also saying the same thing. And for that, you need to have basic infrastructure in place, like live data of every aspect of the business, wherever it is, in India or even in the remotest part of the world. We have to do that. Unless until you have that kind of basic infrastructure and a business model. Of course, the financial model, finance is very important when you are scaling it up. So yeah, those are the things. Once you have plugged that, once you have set a higher goal and you try to create that kind of blocks, then you march on that. Talent is important. In India, we have always, the people who have Indians like who have been educated in India but have done really, really well in some of the other countries, like go to Vietnam, go to Indonesia. You'll find a lot of these people, even in US, who have done really, really well. And so, yes, like it's possible. We can do it in India also. India, I don't know what happens. Like maybe people become a little like lazy. I don't know what happens, or maybe like we don't put that aim at a mass scale as of now. We're not doing that, but I'm sure that it will happen. I think we have one company which is $1 billion plus at this point of time. The second, third, fourth will come very soon. And as soon as that comes, then it becomes a movement. I'm sure it will happen. Like today we have many Taiwanese companies in this industry of ours, garment manufacturing, who are multi-billion dollars. Chinese, there are many of them. Koreans, they have done many of them. Sri Lanka is the latest one who has put a couple of them there already. Indonesians have Malaysia, who spoke about one. So we need many more out of India. So I think that's the goal that we're marching towards.
No, I agree, and I think for me, one of the takeaways till now is definitely very important for all of us, is to have a vision in place. I am, just for the sake of repetition, I am repeating it, that if you have thought that you want to be there, I think all things over a period of time align. So it's not that if we worry about what will align, what will not, then that vision will never come. I think that's a really, really big takeaway for me, as well as I think for the audience also. If you don't, your nitty-gritties, what's happening today, should not stop you from thinking big. I think that's very important point that you said. And this is the only way to look towards. Otherwise, I can be in a room for half a day and then keep listening to all the issues our industry has. So every industry has, and even India will have. So everything is growing from that perspective. I think that's a big takeaway, I think, from your side. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, like as we just discussed a couple of things, Shiva has mentioned, and of course, Gaurav is giving a complete different vision, like for the small sector, which is definitely a future. But like if you talk about immediately, like what these other countries have done, and Indian vendors or Indian manufacturers are not at that scale as of now, or the infrastructure has not been built up. That's because I think from my side, when I see, I can see that everybody has tried to be complete end-to-end. At some point of time, like you have to break it into blocks and we excel at that particular block. For example, like Shiva mentioned in the beginning of it, the base is the factories. Like how the factories can be very efficient, can have very high productivity. Today, if I go to Vietnam, country like Vietnam, there are many factories like that who have really scaled up. They have really invested in the machines and all. Technology, the industrial engineering is very high. But not every one of them are actually exporters. They call themselves as manufacturers. So I'm manufacturing for it. There is somebody who will bring me the orders and get it done, and can be at a large scale. But if you walk the factories, they take pride of which brands, and okay, this is from the vision of a manufacturer. So what brands that I'm manufacturing for? So this Vietnamese would very proudly show, okay, these are the brands that I'm manufacturing for. He might not be exporting, but he says, okay, this is the manufacturing setup that I have. I went to the factories where they will drive you through, what do you call that, golf cart within his factories, big sheds and all, but he has never done an export. But he's taking so much of pride of the manufacturing setup that is set up. All automated machines, all kind of, de-skilling and all, everything that he has done. So those kind of things are very common in Vietnam, now getting common in Indonesia, not so much as of yet. Bangladesh, because of such a high rapid growth, and then they're going through that, ups and downs. So that's also going in that direction. If I see there are certain people who are purely into manufacturing, there are certain people who are purely into marketing. So that kind of ecosystem is building up there, and it has built up faster in a very short amount of time. So yeah, it would be interesting to see what happens in India. Like if you talk of North India and in South India, I see a divide. Even in terms of that, the ecosystem, economics also is not dividing. I think the whole political angle that is coming up in India between North and South also will be very different going forward. But as of now, if I look at it, North India is going in the direction what Turkey went through at a point of time. So Turkey's entrepreneurs, like they were very close to the fashion, very strong in relationships with the customers, and trying to bring out innovative solutions in terms of product. And then they started scaling it up, going into countries like Tunisia, Morocco, or to let's say Egypt, and some other places. So Indians, like some of the North Indians, have gone to the south and set up the big factories out there, which is more disciplined as a place in terms of managing the workforce, I guess. So those are things that have happened. But now, what next? So as I see globally the picture, like what keeps me very interested in this industry and this business is what's going to happen. Of course, like if I talk of myself and my role and Pearl Global's role, then you have to have a vision and see, like from this global patch, what direction that I want to take or we want to take. Of course, what financially can be supportive for us, and we're marching towards that. But yes, if we can break it up into components, one thing that Gaurav has brought up that information that, okay, when you are setting a design, so we have to not only the design product, but the mind presence, the culture, how this person is thinking, what's their behavior, and how do you communicate. So that's like, it's not only the product, it's the whole package. So they're like, many of us are investing into designers who have had that, in the local markets, like Spain, Spanish designers you hire, or in US you have US designers, or like that. That's something is, I think, progressive. We are doing that. Many of us are doing that. So that is one part that we understand very quickly. Similarly, what about manufacturing? What about sourcing? What about creating that manpower resources? Of course, everywhere there's a challenge, as you can say. If you want to focus only on challenge, there are big challenges. But then every part you have to create a solution, create a model which will be scalable, which is important.
That's, I think, what Pallab is trying to say, that, and that's what we have been saying since morning, that we have to really identify the blocks and then see that who is heading that block, who is responsible for that block. You are not responsible for everything. So who is responsible for that block, and let him make it happen. And then only it is scalable also, and it is expandable. Just a small example I want to share. I was sitting with TAL Group chairman, and I was understanding in terms of how they do business, and he said that, and I have quoted this example earlier also, he said that if an order comes for 100,000 pieces, I asked my team that how much fabric we should make, and we end up making fabric for 1.5 lakh pieces. And I said, how it is possible? What you do with the rest of it? He said, it's not a guesswork. My team is there in US, Europe. They monitor that these kind of product, which consumer is going to buy, how is store sales happening. They give a scientific feedback that while they are giving you 100,000 pieces order, is going to sell much more. He makes it, and he said, my waste or my surplus out of this is only 97%. 97% is on time and 3% is only surplus. So imagine that's the level, and when the repeat delivery comes, he is able to give these repeat deliveries in 20 days, and he charges $1 more for those repeat deliveries. That's a model. Some of the companies are also working a step ahead. Because you talked about it, I just wanted to give that example here from that perspective. Siva, you, in terms of Pallab said north and south. So I would say north does not mean NCR, right? Because north has, like, we are setting up factories in MP, in Jharkhand, in a lot of other places where we are talking about competitive factories. So I think it's the destination which is more important. What's your view on this?
I think it's how you run the factories and what discipline, right? I don't know, we will have to start learning to run factories everywhere. So once you have a factory, it is about how you run internally. What is the discipline that you want internally? Frankly, it's not, I don't believe it's all about workers. It's the factory management which delivers the results. If you look at a factory, what do I look at? I look at, the supervisors and above, the production in charges and, floor in charges, or whatever structures you have. How good are they? Is there any variability there? So if you have one product running across 8 lines, why is it that one line is far more productive than the other line? It's the same product running for the same duration of time. and why are certain supervisors better than certain other supervisors, and how is it that they are successful. I think if you start asking the right questions there, you will probably get your answers on what can make your factory become more productive. Addressing workers or some of those, I think you're barking in the wrong tree. It's not the right. That's not the place where the problem is. So it's about the management, and you have to get into those details. So get into those little things. You will find, and there are certain characters who probably should not have existed in the company also, and how quickly you can take those decisions. Some factory managers tell me that these supervisors are weak, so I'm going to work with them. And now after 1 month, if I come back and say I'm still working with them, probably something is wrong, right? I mean, you're not able to fix it. So those decisions are also equally important. Your training is important. How are you training the people, supervisors? How are you training the people above? And of course, training the workers as well. And how are you treating people who have, after training have not really come out with flying colors? So I think there's enough pointers in what I'm saying for you to understand. That's where you will bring consistency across factories. Then you don't care whether it is north, south, where Vietnam, India. I mean, why should if Bangladesh can pick up and as Pallab says is getting as efficient or as productive as Vietnamese factories, that milieu, that ecosystem is similar to India. People are saying South Asian stock. So if Bangladesh can do it, India can also do it. So it's not about South. I don't think that it's more about how you be managed.
I got it. I think what he's saying, you have to start asking the right questions. Every question is not the right question. You have to start asking the right question. Gaurav, any view on I'm moving from e-commerce to they are talking manufacturing. We are a lot of manufacturers here. So you have been there in US for so long. Your views in terms of what is being talked about and what you see India's future.
Twice that you go through. Then we have why do Indians perform better overseas is because I think every immigrant that goes to another country performs better than the natives. What we see in US also, why Indians are excelling, is because we want to prove a point. We work very hard. We work 18 hours a day, 20 hours a day to give the best shot we have. And the people over there, I don't know, I've been hearing news about California, free robbery, stores in San Francisco are closing. I don't want to be negative on this, but that's the reality. People don't want to work. The people who've been brought up there and living there for their ancestral 100, 200 years, they are done working. They think, bring it from Mexico, bring it from India, bring it from China, bring it from Korea. I think Koreans own maximum of the Central America factories. And I worked in Central America for 20 years, going back and forth. India, definitely, we've been, our talent has been a great force. We are intelligent. It's just investing into the right equipment, I think, modernizing your factories, improving on the talent, and bring yourself out there. Take yourself forward, increase your profitability. So they have grown from 900 to 3,000 and 3,000 plus. The finance is a little easy, but I'm talking on behalf of the small cluster where sometimes the finance gets difficult, the talent gets difficult. Finding the right people, finding the right factories. Sometimes you have to work with Ludhiana on knits. The commitment. The commitment is not coming, so better give us the real dates. So there's a lot of challenges coming from north compared to south. And Brandix tried to do the hub in Andhra Pradesh, right? Are they successful? They're running a full vertical hub, fabric processing. So we are good in certain fabrics. Let's focus on those, bring the design talent out there, and bring that $60 billion business through e-commerce. That's the next game for a small business, small scale industry. But definitely as they have grown, if you want to go to certain part of India, yes, there is definitely an opportunity. I think Bihar is plug and play model they're giving away. Gujarat is giving so many opportunity in terms of land, but you have to relocate. Do you want your families to go? Would your kids love that? So do what your passion is, what you can bring forward. I think that will take you a long way. And even if you're doing smaller quantities, bigger, medium, mid-sized quantities, make sure it is on time, bring the design talent, study it properly that how this is being executed. And there's still small and big brands that you can work with, and they're successful over there and all over the world. So good luck, and I wish this all things come forward and you can all scale up to a manufacturing facility where you get 10,000 piece order by your own brands. So that's a different outlook compared to what mass manufacturing is. Mass manufacturing, South has been always there, like 35 years in working. South has been more talented, more organized, more systematic compared to the Northern approach.
It's about companies. It's again, I tell you, just a change in perspective. What we have been looking till now to now, after this discussion, I would say challenges, whether small or big, will always remain. Whether it's Ludhiana or Tirupur or anywhere.
Correct.
It's what's your vision, everything gets aligned. So I think thanks Shiva for giving this input, because we can't look at challenges, then we can't grow. If we keep looking at challenges, we can't grow. We have to look beyond, everything gets aligned, nothing in terms of north-south at all. I would say it's only the perspective, and I have seen factories efficiently working all over India. There are more, that's why. If you do a survey, you will find South is better, right? But
I must tell you that, as a company, if you bring up a culture, then you can get over with the local culture. Like, there won't be local culture challenges will be there. But then that's why you are there, like, to bring up a company culture or work culture in that organization.
Thank you. Anybody has any questions? So that, because again, I have time limitations, I have this 1 hour with me. If anybody has specific questions, otherwise I have one, and then I would, because I really got good insight from the panel today. Anybody has? Yeah.
You see, since morning, we've been talking about a segment of the industry where probably Shiva and Pallab belong to, which is the medium to large part of large players in the industry, where you probably you need larger factories, you need larger runs, and of course that is 75% of India's business today. But then there is one segment of the business where a lot of us exporters belong to, which is the smaller and micro segment of that business, which is ranging from say 50 crores to 200 crores business. Now, obviously for them the product is different, and the MOQs are different, are much smaller, and so whatever we spoke about does not really apply to them. Yes, you need good manufacturing, that applies to them, but you don't really need to scale up, because scaling could probably be counterproductive. Now, so here, I would like to ask Shiva this question. How do you balance between the two? Because I know there are many manufacturers who are into the high value product. For them, top line is not important. For them, bottom line is important. So what they see is how to increase the value of their product. That while maybe their top line does not grow by in large percentage terms, but the bottom line keeps growing. So how do you balance the two?
So the way I see it is, in any business, I think it's only bottom line that matters. Top line really doesn't matter. Top line is a means to achieving the bottom line. So even for our company, I really don't focus so much on top line. I focus much more on bottom line and seeing bottom line growth. So that goes without saying. But specifically answering your question on somebody who has got a 200, 300 crore kind of business. There are 2-3 points I want to make, and this is just my opinion, and obviously you will have to take it appropriately for your business. The efficiency, the manufacturing part is where you can improve your margin. So if let's say on 200 crore business, let's say you're earning some 20-25 crores annually on that business, you probably can earn a little more. So how do you run that even more efficiently so that the customer also benefits by delivering it well. That is one part. The other part is about the fundamental notion that if you don't grow, the other thing is you stagnate and you can still persist in the long run. I would want you to ask that question again or rethink it, because my fear is that if one doesn't grow, one can atrophy. It is not that you can stagnate, because what happens in every business is that at some point, this business in India has been quite fragmented. But if it starts getting a little more consolidated and some bigger players start emerging and who can compete and probably offer what you're offering at a lower price, or the brands are constantly looking for it, then what happens? Would that relevance still remain? And how do you protect yourself in that situation? So if you look at, again, sorry to go for some other industry, but how many small IT companies exist today? It's all got consolidated. You have some giants who are 10-15 of them, and then there are a few, but then they've started focusing on Indian market and others and all that. So no matter who you are, an Infosys or a TCS can give a cheaper solution than a smaller company. So all your earlier Patnis and onward technology, so many of them, they just could not survive because the big guys started attacking them also. So, or the brand started moving, then they could get a lower cost solution. So something to think about. It may not be immediately relevant, it may be something for you to protect yourself in the future, but there is a possibility of a threat in the longer run. Again, how to protect yourself, much more stronger ties with the customer, and if you're really adding more value to the customer by doing an embellished product or something only which you can do, then you may have a niche. But a niche player continues to remain a niche player. The only way for you is to protect your niche, continue to be very efficient and strive for additional profitability. I feel that do not accept the profitability that you have, even if that is very good. Or there is a possibility that you're still leaving some margin out there, which are getting lost due to inefficiencies, and good few team members can actually extract that little bit out. But I still urge everyone who are the smaller ones, right, between say 200, 500 crores, that range, why not think bigger? Why not start looking at expanding? In a way, an expansion is also a protection against you getting overwhelmed in the future. So something to think about, something to encourage your next generation to also think about.
I completely agree with Siva on this, and I still remember when first time I met him, he said, "Yeah, you have grown big from 900 crores to this." And he says, "Prashant, for you might be big, but I still have a long way to go." That was his initial reaction from that. So I think, for as Siva said, 200 crore target may not be $1 billion. Target may be 500. 500 target may be 1,000. But if you set the targets aligned to the business that you are in, things can be achieved. And I have seen, like lately also, there are companies who are coming. I think Amod is sitting there, and they bought Saivana, and then they've expanded Saivana in a period of 2 years, almost doubled. So it's from, and hugely profitable, 30% EBITDA. So I would say even for smaller companies, definitely there is a scope for growth. Definitely may not be that all areas are touched equally, but you have to create your niches and see that how you can perform in those niches also. But identification of, I would say, what everybody has said here, identification of areas like whether digitalization, whether automation, whether people management, everything has to be looked differently. That's what one has to see. And I think you have answered one of the last question which I had, and if Pallab, you would also like to answer on that. Is consolidation going to be the future? Is consolidation will be a big buzz in India in garment industry in future? And I would like to take both of yours take on this. My last question.
Industry is definitely going through a consolidation. Like if we talk of US, Gaurav can say, like today I think very few, only 3 or 4 of them is having a huge portfolio of brands now. All the brands are getting sold off, and then people are accumulating them. Like ABG or whose Park has got 7. So these are like, even like today, even my other company Gap has been financially very strong. It's still very strong. But if something happens, I'm sure like these guys are like keeping a watch. So it will happen. At some point in time, it's happening. I had a CEO, Glenn Murphy, under whom like Gap did fairly well for a period of time of 7-8 years. And he used to say that every day, like if I don't run, then here somebody is going to grab me. So initially, like 10 years, 12 years back, it was Asina who was buying the brands. But I don't know, somehow they lost that vision. They went into bankruptcies and all, so their brands got sold off. And again, it has all gone to these 3 or 4 consolidators now. So that's happening there. In Europe also we see a little bit of trend. It's not so much as of yet. In manufacturing part, like if I look into the countries like Vietnam and Bangladesh, there is some way this is happening, definitely. There are small manufacturers who are like just getting under one umbrella of marketing together or designing together. So those kind of things is an opportunity. Like industry does think like that. Human mind does think like that. At a certain point of time, I guess, not initially like if I have to be an entrepreneur and start a business, first of all, I want to achieve certain goals of mine and I want to see like what my things are. I think that's maybe the psychology that works. But then at some point of time you start seeing that advantages. What's the advantage? That's what I have observed so far. But I'm sure like
again, I think whatever industry structure is most efficient, that will happen right over a period of time. So if consolidation to a small extent will be a continuing trend, whether it will accelerate or not depends on how the opportunity evolves. But generally the logic is that a little bigger player may be a little more capable, efficient of serving a customer with a lower overhead, building a business which is bigger. Remember, most of the brands are billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar, they're large. So if you are a small supplier, let's say we do some few hundred crores, we are still a small player in their scheme of things. And hence we may not be able to get our margins. It will be, it will become tighter and tighter. There is a cost of inflation which is picking up, right? And who eats into that inflation? Retailer may take some portion of it, but largely it is the supply chain which is absorbing that inflation. And you may reach a point of no return. So there has to be an operating leverage. Size gives you that ability to defray costs across a wider spectrum of manufacturing plants. So growth is an imperative. Frankly, if you don't grow, I think there will be slowly it will start hurting the business. Every business or every unit will have its own window under which it can shield itself, but beyond which it will start visiting itself. So I think there is a economic logic for consolidation. Whether it will happen, how soon it will happen, I think time will tell.
Thanks, and thanks for all the inputs, and it's really nice fireside chat, and in this panel which I had, these kind of frank inputs and opinion from on the ground. I have done a lot of panels, but it is one of the best ones that I would talk about, where I get the insight. Thanks to all three of you. And I would say some of the points that I would like to sum up from what is talked about here. It's applicable to everyone. It's not about big or small. So sometimes we might say that okay, what is being talked about is a different platform, because I started the whole presentation also creating $1 billion plus companies. So I would say the building blocks are same everywhere, whether it's small or big. Definitely there are nitty-gritties which are different, but the underlying factor which everybody talks about, if you have the vision, if you want to treat it as an industry, then growth is possible. Otherwise, growth cannot be thought of if you are stuck in nitty-gritties of the business. Nitty-gritties have to be handled, but there has to be somebody in the organization who is going to handle those nitty-gritties. And that's how business is going to grow. Process and systems are important, digitalization, automation, whatever is happening is important. OTIF is one of the important things which everybody talks about. I think value to commitment is number one. By far number one, which everybody talks about. Definitely there are opportunities for younger generation on e-commerce. I think people can get in touch with Gaurav and Auntie and otherwise and talk about it much more. I think India has the opportunities, India has the talent. We have to start thinking how do we really take it to the next step. With this, I really thank all my panelists for giving this input, and I will close down this session.
I thank all the panelists for an enriching deliberation and putting across their views so eloquently about the technologies and the strategies they have used and employed and how it has helped to grow their companies and increase profitability. Can I please request Mr. Amarjeet to come up on stage and present mementos to the moderator and the panelists as a token of our appreciation. To our moderator, Mr. Prashant. To Mr. Pallab Banerjee. Mr. Siva. And Mr. Gaurav. Thank you all.